Welcome to the Creation Innovation Podcast. I'm your host, Elizabeth King. Together, we'll have conversations with incredible human beings who have taken their creative outlet and turned it into something innovative. From people leaving the corporate world to be 8-figure entrepreneurs to people who have created books, created a family, or just creating to have fun in the world. We are all in a journey to create something amazing in our lives, and I hope that you find some inspiration of your own here. This is the Creation Innovation Podcast. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Creation Innovation Podcast. I'm so excited today to talk to Dr. Kela Smith. She is now a doctor since the last time we had her on, and welcome, Dr. Kela.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be back.
Yes. So how do I say this? Kela and I have been collaborating and doing podcasts and her summits and stuff for many years now, I feel like. And she has so much information and is such a pillar in this community around all things fertility and hormones and all kinds of great information. So please, if you haven't already checked her out, I know we'll do some of this at the end of the podcast as well, but I cannot say enough amazing things about Dr. Kela. I'm so excited to have you back again. But today we're going to talk about why functional labs are a game changer for your health. So can you tell us a little bit about that while we get started?
Sure. So I started using functional labs in my practice many, many years ago because I saw a need. I had a lot of clients coming to me that had a lot of health issues around fertility and hormone issues, and they weren't getting the answers they needed from their functional, they're not functional, they're Western medical doctors through, Western medical testing and things. And so why functional labs are a game changer and why I like to use them is because unlike blood work, which is going to show us a snapshot in time of what's happening right when whatever's being tested, whether that's hormones, whether that's minerals, whatever it is, just going to show us a snapshot of what's being tested right when it's tested. But it doesn't show how the body's using what we're testing. It doesn't show how hormones are being methylated, detoxed, excreted, how even if the cell's receptors are turned on to receive the hormones or not, which is the other piece of the puzzle. Same with minerals. It's not going to show minerals are intracellular, many of them, like magnesium. And so it's not going to show us what's in the cell, which is going to show our overall health. And so that's why I feel running functional labs is going to just show us another piece of that puzzle that a lot of times is missed. And then once we know what's wrong, we can kind of look at that root cause and we can say, okay, this is what we need to fix and optimize. And then this is how we do it. So that's one of the ways I kind of use those in practice.
And it's so amazing because most of us go to Western doctors because that's the world that we were brought up in. That's what's normal for the most part. I think it's becoming more normal the last 20 years that we also see a naturopath, a functional, etc., integrative, all of the above for people that are more open to that. I know for myself, it's been probably 25 years that I started seeing those sorts of things, but it wasn't very easy to come by, and right. It always amazes me though, that the Western doctors don't really talk about all of that. That's not part of their vocabulary. That's not part of their mindset as to where and why they want to start to dig in. So can you give us a little bit of insight as to why that would be?
Sure.
Because it seems so obvious.
Right. Well, one, this is not how Western doctors are trained. They're trained to look for disease and to treat symptoms. So when you go to the doctor and you have, blood work or whatever you have done, they're looking at very different parameters than what I'm looking at. And they are going to treat you based on your symptoms. They're going to give you a pill. They're going to recommend a surgery or, one of those options to not heal you, but to make the symptoms go away. And as you know, a lot of times you get on one prescription and then that causes some symptoms to pop up and then you need another prescription. And before we know it, we're being recommended, to do IVF if we've got fertility issues, to do a hysterectomy if we've got hormone issues. So that's one piece of it. The other piece is I'm looking functionally and I'm looking for the root cause. And I want to see, why are you having the symptoms in the first place? And let's get rid of that reason so the symptoms go away naturally. So I'm reading it functionally. I'm looking at how we can heal your body and how we can make it work optimally. Whereas that's not Western medicine's wheelhouse. That's not what they're trained to do. And I always joke and say, like, if I break my leg or if I have a heart attack, I'm going to go straight to my Western medicine doctor. I'm going to go to the emergency room. I'm going to be like, please don't, I don't want to die or I don't want to be crippled from a broken leg or whatever that's not healed right. But if I'm trying to heal from, say, fertility issues or autoimmune conditions, or, any of the systems in the body are compromised and I want to heal them and find out what's wrong with them, then that's where functional medicine, integrative medicine, naturopath, that's where that comes in. And that's where these lab tests would come in as well.
Yes, thank you for defining that for people that may not have known, because I think it can become pretty confusing as to where
Mhm.
one ends and where the other begins. So if somebody is starting on their fertility journey and they've been trying for a while and they're just not, it's not happening, and they're in that mental state too of just being so disappointed and devastated about the fact that they never thought this would be what's their life was going to look like, where should somebody start?
Sure. So that's the first place I like to look, is when somebody comes to me, I'll start with a dry urine hormone test, because again, I want to look deeper and see exactly what your hormones are doing. Even if you had blood work and it says these hormones are normal, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're normal. That just means that you have the right levels in blood work. And blood work's also going to look at what is normal, not what is optimal. So
Right.
that's
And
the
can
first place I start. Yeah.
I think we need to dig into that a little bit too for people who
Yeah.
get these labs done and think, oh, it's normal. So, can you elaborate on that a little bit as well for people who don't understand that difference?
Sure. So, lab work that you have done, wherever you have it done with your Western medical doctor with that lab, that the parameters that they're looking at is based on the population of that city where the lab is. So, if you live in a city that maybe has an older population or has, a different population from you, then and so that's the parameters that they're looking at. Also, they're looking for, like I said before, just bare minimum normal lab work to say, okay, do you need a prescription? Do you need a surgery? Like, that's what they're looking for when they're looking at your labs. But what I'm looking for, which is a step up, is I'm looking to see, are you optimal? Is every system in the body working the best that it can work? And if not, then let's fix that. Let's heal that root. So that's kind of the difference there. I'm looking at different parameters, and I'm looking for optimal health, where they're looking for, do you need a prescription or a procedure? So that's kind of one, difference there.
Right. I always say we don't necessarily want to be, of course, the normal range is fine, but we want to know what's normal for you, right? So for somebody
Exactly.
who's my height, my size, I wear a size 6 shoe, but also a size 7 would be normal for somebody who is
Right.
my size, right? But if I wear
Right.
a size 7 shoe, I'm going to get blisters, I'm going to have back issues, I'm going to have all other
Hmm.
things. So it's not normal for me. And that's where you want
Exactly.
somebody to really dig in a little bit more to say, how can we optimize all of these things for
Hmm.
your specific body so you can get the outcome that you need and want, right? And that is so
Exactly.
different than just, again, what's normal is not healthy around you, and so we
Right.
don't necessarily want to fit into that that range on your average blood work panel.
Exactly. Exactly. And there's also something called suboptimal, where you can be a little bit under or over normal, where most Western doctors are not going to catch that or not going to say anything. They might say, oh, you're a little bit suboptimal and then you're going to need this procedure or prescription. Whereas I'm going to look at that, I'm going to correlate it to the symptoms that you're having, and I'm going to work with you as a whole person to get all your systems working together instead of just looking at it in isolation. And a lot of times too, Western doctors, they're not going to look at the symptoms. They're just going to say, like, and they're not looking to get the symptoms to heal. They're just looking to treat the symptom, not the underlying cause of the symptom. So yeah.
And again, on your fertility health, this is not just something of when you're trying to get pregnant. This is a long-term,
Yes.
pregnant, post-pregnancy, pre-menopause, all the things. We want to make sure that our body and our reproductive system is healthy. And when you work with somebody like Dr. Kela, they're really looking at the larger picture. Of course, you may have a goal in mind, in those moments of I want to have a baby or I want to feel better with my hormones or my hot flashes or my
Mhm.
painful periods or whatever it may be. But really this is a bigger picture, and that's why I think when
Mhm.
people come to see someone like you, they may come in with one thing but then be told there's other things to be aware of. Can you tell us a little bit
For
about that?
sure.
Because I hear that quite often. If I went to, an integrative medicine doctor and I thought I had thyroid, but it turns out I have that and 18 other things, right, that are affecting
Right.
something. So tell us a little bit about that so people are kind of prepared as to why it's looking at not only the root cause, but all the things that play into that.
Yeah, for sure. So I like to say fertility is a symptom, or infertility is a symptom of suboptimal health. So that's your body saying something's wrong. Your body was made to get pregnant naturally, and you should be able to do that. Obviously, there's some cases like if you don't have a uterus or fallopian tubes, getting pregnant naturally is going to be a lot harder. But if you do, your system should be working. And so if you're having fertility issues, that's a symptom that something else is wrong. And then also, like I said earlier, I'm looking at all the systems in the body and I want to look how they're working together. And so sometimes you're having other symptoms that correlate to that root cause of infertility issues. So, what I mean by that, I'll run a dried urine hormone test and it'll show that your stress hormones are in the tubes, they're super low. That's going to affect your estrogen and progesterone production and metabolism and how your body's using that. That's going to affect your thyroid. That's going to affect, all the systems in your body if your stress hormones are out of whack. And so that's what's going to cause some of these other symptoms that you might be experiencing. And so a lot of times I'll run these tests for fertility purposes, but I'll uncover like the reason you're having night sweats is because you're estrogen dominant. You might not have even correlated the two, and that's causing fertility issues. And so we're looking again to optimize the entire body, every system in the body, instead of just one system and trying to treat that one system. We want you to work as a whole and everything to work how it should work naturally.
And what's the general time frame that you see with people to start to get results of starting to feel better and kind of working towards that path? Again, we're speaking of fertility. When I started to go on this path, it was not about fertility. It was around stomach issues and having a gallbladder removed and then all the things that
Mm,
kind of followed from that. But even that, right, there was a reason that that was breaking down at in my
mhm.
early 20s. That's not normal. And so trying to
Right.
figure out why that happened, right? So what is the
Mm.
average time frame that people come to see you, get on supplementation or whatever it may be to kind of rectify that and get back on track where they're feeling like everything's their results are coming back as now optimal and therefore their hopefully their end result will be what they are looking for.
For sure. So it depends on how they come in, how severe the case is, what they're struggling with, how much we need to do. But within 30 days, most people will see some sort of symptom relief. I have had people come in where we run these tests, we get the results back, and within, 2 to 3, 4 weeks, we're saying, okay, this is what's wrong. Let's fix this. And then, they're getting pregnant in the next couple of cycles. Sometimes it does take longer than that. Again, it just depends on where they're coming in at. But I will say I have never had one person that didn't start working, holistically, building these foundations that didn't get some sort of result, whether that's symptom reduction, a better period, their period comes back, they've got less cramping, bloating, fatigue, their skin's clearing up, they're not as tired, they have lots of energy. Like you're getting those results immediately. And then depending on where you're at will depend on how fast you get pregnant. But yeah, I've
And
had, I've worked with so many hard cases all over the world. And it's just shocking to me how many people come in where their Western doctors have said, like, you're never going to get pregnant. This is never going to happen for you. And then we start working together and within a few months, they're pregnant. So it can be that quick.
And I think it's a good reminder that it's also not that hard, right? It's not a
Right.
heavy lift. So
Yeah.
it's not that you're going to see somebody and it's going to be super painful for you and you're going to have to be doing all kinds of things. I mean, yes, you're going to have to change some of your lifestyle, I would say, and you can speak to that. But on the whole, it's quite easy for the result that you end up getting. So what does that
For
look like
sure.
for most people? Is it supplementation? Is it lifestyle change? Is it diet? What does that look like?
Yeah, so we start laying the foundations. So it is diet changes. And I always say this is a lifestyle. You're not on a diet, but the basis of the nutrition lifestyle changes would be eating low inflammatory foods. I am a big fan and I've looked at the research and I'm sure you can agree, Elizabeth, but I say gluten-free is gluten's poison to the body. And that's one of the main things we'll do is we'll do gluten-free and dairy-free, low inflammatory foods. And I like to focus on what you get to eat, not what you can't have. So it's a little mindset shift. You get to eat all these beautiful, delicious foods, lots of fruits and vegetables, lots of nuts and seeds, almost like Mediterranean style. So that's where we'll start. And then as we get your test results, we'll be able to kind of customize that even more based on your bio individual body. What specific nutrients do you need? What specific minerals? Where do you need to focus your nutrition? And I always say it's a step up from just eating healthy, because pretty much everybody that comes to me and says, I'm eating healthy. But then
Right.
when we
I've done
really
all the
look at it,
things.
you're actually not. It's a
Right.
step up for eating for fertility versus just eating healthy. Yeah.
For
Yeah.
sure.
Um,
It's kind of
and
up
so
leveling your
that
game essentially.
Exactly. Exactly. So I always start with food first, and then sometimes there's a need for supplements because you can't get the quantity of food that you need and the quantity of the nutrients in food form. So that's when supplements come in. And that's why they're called supplements, because they supplement a good diet. So we'll do some supplements. Again, it's based on your test results. So I'll say, this is what the test is showing that you're deficient in. This is what we need to add in here as far as supplements go. And then lifestyle pieces. We'll work on stress and sleep and getting rid of environmental toxins and the emotional, mental piece of the fertility journey and, the hormones and health journey. So all of those pieces are in my hormone puzzle method. And so this is kind of where we start. We start with foundations and then we customize based on the test results.
So I'm sure you see this a lot as well, is people that have come to you are very type A. They've done all the things. They feel
Mhm.
like they've checked all the boxes. They've seen all the doctors, etc. I just want to say, and again, correct me if I'm wrong in saying this, but when you go down this road, you mentioned 30 days initially for some people to start seeing some sort of relief of symptoms. 30 days to, let's say, even 6 months in this bigger picture of either trying to have a baby or balance your hormones to feel better is such a small period of time. I always say it's a snapshot. You feel like it's so much in the moment, especially if you're feeling like you're pushing that biological clock, so to speak, and you don't have the time to be doing this. But overall, these changes that you're making are healthy for your body in general. And
Mhm.
you will not be sorry that you've put in this time and effort to what's the word? Neutralize your body in all of
Yeah.
these ways and
Right.
make it more powerful, really. And you are taking the power
Mhm.
back on this journey rather than it taking control of you. And I think that's a big part of that mental piece that you mentioned
Mhm.
earlier, because that can be so overwhelming when you're on this path.
For sure, for sure. And I liked too, when I was going through my fertility issues, this gave me some control back, like you were saying earlier. And this allowed me to focus each day. I knew I could control what I was eating, what I was supplementing, what my lifestyle looked like. Even though I felt out of control, I couldn't like pinpoint, okay, I'm going to get pregnant in this cycle, but I could definitely control those things. So it helped me, it kind of lowered my stress response because I had some control back.
I could not agree more. People ask me all the time. I had the three kids over 40 naturally, and I feel like everybody can have one over 40. That's easy. But
Yeah.
to have three over 40 that are healthy, knock on wood, I'm so blessed.
Hmm.
But also it's
Yeah.
because I was doing all of these things. Now, I wasn't
Hmm.
working with somebody on that fact, but I had years of kind of self, you know, what's the word,
Yeah.
educating myself on all of these natural holistic things for many different areas, avenues, etc. Lots of experts around me. So it's the same type of thing, but you don't have to buy into the societal, norm of what you think or you're told should be, right? Whether it's your age
Right.
or whatever it may be. Like if your doctor, as Kayla said, that you can't get pregnant. Well, we can choose not to accept that and go another path
Right.
and see what the outcome can be there. And I just want to challenge anybody who's listening to shift that mindset and really go into not manifesting it, so to speak, because that sounds a little bit woo woo, but there is some woo woo to it as well, in my opinion.
Uh-huh.
But also the facts, right? We know what we put into our body affects us. We know when we see somebody who's older and we're like, wow, they look amazing for their age. They probably look amazing for their age because of what they're putting into it. Granted, some people just have good genetics, but we also know that we have the ability to affect our genetics, which prior years past, we didn't think that we had that. And now there's so many studies on epigenetics and what we can do to change that. So I think that's really an amazing world that we live in now, that we have the ability to affect change in all areas of our life and our body. So you mentioned about your story a little bit. I'd love to dig into that now. So can you tell our listeners who are not familiar with you and your beautiful story a little bit about how you came to be doing what you're doing and all of the amazing things you've created? If we talk about at the Creation Innovation that we're all birthing or creating something every day. So you have so many things that you've birthed and created, including your own children. But tell us a little bit about all of those things.
Sure. So it started with my own personal journey with infertility. So this was 10 years ago, before anybody was really talking about fertility. I just thought, you have sex, you get pregnant, that's what happens. And so I met my husband a little bit later in life. We got married when I was 32, and we started trying naturally and nothing happened. And so we went the Western medical route, went to our doctor, ran a bunch of tests, everything was normal. So she was like, well, because of my age, by this point, I was like 34. She was like, why don't we try you on some Clomid, see how that works? I didn't know anything about what this was, what it would do to my body. She never once said to me, what are you eating? Are you ovulating? Are you tracking your cycle? Like, none of that stuff. Just, let's try some Clomid. I'm like, all right. So thinking it would work, we did 3 cycles of Clomid. Nothing happened. Went back to her, more tests. Then she sent us to a local fertility clinic and even more tests. And then at that point, I was 35, and they said, well, now you're advanced maternal age, so we recommend IUI. That doesn't work, then IVF is your next step, and you can probably forget getting pregnant naturally, because most women over 35 don't get pregnant naturally, blah, 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 blah. So at that point, I was like, but wait a minute, because they diagnosed me with unexplained infertility. So I was thinking, you just diagnosed me with unexplained. I have nothing medically wrong with me. My age was my only factor. I'm not going to take that I have to do a medical procedure to force my body to do what it should be doing naturally. And not to take anything away from those procedures. I'm so happy that we have those. I didn't want to start there. I wanted to end there if that was my last choice, because I just didn't want to go down that road. So then I left her office, and I was like, I told my husband, I said, I'm going to see what I can do to figure this out naturally. And I dove into research. I was like, okay, what do I need to be eating? What does my lifestyle need to be? What am I doing wrong here? And I had to radically change my life. I mean, I think I was working out entirely too much. I was a personal trainer at the time, so I was super skinny, super fit, what I thought was healthy. I was eating all the wrong foods. I was eating low fat, low calorie, and just my body wasn't, my hormones were all jacked up. I'd been on birth control for many years. And so I just started diving into that research and decided I was going to just, like I said, radically change. And that's what I did. And so about 6 months later, I ended up getting pregnant naturally. So I had my first, I was about 37 when he was born. And then I did it again at 40. And then now those kids are 7 and 10. And so at that point, once I had those 2 kids, I was like, I have to teach this, because I felt like I didn't get the support I needed through what I went through Western medicine. And so I was like, I don't want anybody else to have to go through this. So I went back to school and started this path of became a certified health coach. And then I started my practice. That was 7 years ago. And then in about 2 years in, I was like, I want to learn more about nutrition. So I became a nutritionist. And then about a year ago, I decided I wanted to get my PhD. And so now I'm a doctor of natural medicine with a PhD and master's. So yeah, I work with people all over the world with these issues and help them to not have to struggle like we did.
It's so amazing. And again, I want to just reiterate, in that part of it, your story is you can always shift to something else that is lighting you up, right? I think for Kela and I both, fertility is what our kind of magic spark is for us every day. We can geek out on it. We can talk about it all all day to the wall. I always say, it doesn't matter who's listening or not. And if you feel like that is something for you too, whether it's fertility or something else, follow that. It's never too late to shift what you're doing. If you're in a 9-to-5 or you're doing something that you don't love, find something that you're doing. I know Kela and I both have programs to help you to become fertility coaches. And there's nothing better than, helping somebody on that journey from all perspectives. And it's such a beautiful gift to be able to share with somebody else. Maybe you haven't struggled and it's been really easy for you, but you love nutrition and you love just women's wellness in general. It's such a great path to have this flexibility and freedom to really make a difference in somebody's life and show up in a heart-centered way. So I love Dr. Kela's story because, it's not easy at any age, to say, I'm going to go back to school and do a PhD, right? We all have a million things to do. But if that's something that is lighting you up, I have a girl that I talked to a few weeks ago. She's going back to do an MD. She's, 37. And she's like, I just figured I love that. And this is what I'm going to do. I'm like, that's amazing. I think we're kind of starting to rewrite this narrative of you've always done this, or this is what you went to school for. And so that's where you stay. And it's such a cool time that we live in that we're able to make those changes at any point and say, I'm going to do this and I'm going to rock it and it's going to be amazing. And this is what I love. And if we change what we are interested in down the road, we can do that too. That's the cool part.
For sure. I love it. Yeah, this is just, I couldn't imagine doing anything else. Like you said, this just lights me up and I wake up every day and pinch myself. Like, I can't believe this is my life and this is my work. And it's just amazing. So
it is amazing.
I'm sure you can relate.
Yes. How can people find you?
Sure. So you can go to my website. I'm at coachkela.com, and Kela's Kela. There you can find many different digital downloads. I have a free fertility meal plan. I have a cycle optimizing guide. You can find information about my podcast, which is the Hormone Puzzle podcast. I'm also on Instagram at Kela_health coach and the Hormone Puzzle method. And on Facebook, Kela Health Coach. And also, you mentioned I do have a program where I certify fertility coaches, and that's called Fertility Coach University. And you can find that at fertilitycoachuniversity.com. So
amazing. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Kela, for being here. And again, congratulations on your new success and your new title. It's so cool. And I can't wait for our paths to cross again soon. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Creation Innovation Podcast. Make sure to follow us on Spotify for free episodes and subscribe to the Creation Innovation Podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you choose to get your podcast. Don't forget to rate and review the podcast wherever you're listening for a chance to receive a special gift. Yes, we actually do send out gifts. It's my favorite thing to do. So visit us at elizabethking.com/creation innovation for more information on how to enter. Every review counts, and we are so grateful. You can follow me at the official Elizabeth King on Instagram or TikTok. Until next time.